generally you'll find that most of these people, not all of them, because they're not getting enough nutrition or they can't get the balance right, often these people are thin. Or in the newly diagnosed, they've actually needed to use their fat for energy to live, so that their heart can beat, that they can breathe, that they can, they can just get around, so they can do that. So they've broken down their fat to do that. With this group here, the insulin, the target organ is the liver. It goes to the liver and it doesn't work properly. So the body, so the pancreas has to make more insulin. So instead of having low levels of insulin, when we test them, they've got very high levels of insulin. So these people here only need injections of insulin. Tablets won't work. But this group here, we can give them tablets. One of the best tablets, I don't know whether it's in the curriculum or not, one of the best tablets is called metformin. Metformin is designed to go to your liver and make the insulin work better. And that's the first choice of treatment in this group of people. Then we bring in another one called a sulfonylurea.
Is it like clean the receptors or make more receptors?
It's a really complicated.
Okay.
But let's just say cleaning the receptor is probably the nicest way of putting it.
Yeah.
But the insulin receptor is really complicated.
Yeah.
And it's because there's a lot of put it like it's a row of dominoes. Now, you line your dominoes up, the insulin hits the top of the dominoes, and the effect flows through. Because you've got insulin stimulating the receptor, and then you've got other transmission, and there's other substances like, I won't go there. It's too hard for me. But you can also use something called sulfonylureas. Sulfonylureas make the pancreas or the beta cell make more insulin. So therefore, it's working at about 120, 150%. After a while, sulfonylureas won't work because the pancreas burns out. So then they've got to come back to going on insulin. Now, in the old days, this used to be called insulin-dependent diabetes, and this one was called non-insulin-dependent diabetes. But it gets confusing these days when type 2s are on insulin. So that's why it got reclassified and renamed, because they need their insulin to live.
Lindsay, can you explain why it is that obesity tends to cause the type 2 diabetes? How does obesity prevent this detectors from working?
Okay.
Receptors.
Once again, it comes back to the environment. And type 2 diabetes generally runs in families. So what happens is, if there was a really good study done in South America with North American Pima Indians, and what happens is they separated them, they urbanized them, and kept them in the rural. So they studied both groups. Now, this particular group of Indians have got what we call a thrifty gene. So the thrifty gene allows them to store lots of glucose as fat. And it comes back to the fact that many thousands of years ago, food was not abundant in winter, but abundant in summer. So they eat in summer, and then during winter they could fast. Come to New Zealand here, we've got food around all the time. So when you've got people who have got that genetic predisposition with the thrifty gene, and there's food around all the time, what happens is they just put on weight. And they put on more weight, more weight, more weight, until you get to the stage where remember I said your glycogen, you've got 300 grams for most adults is the capacity of the liver. So what time we got? 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the livers there can take 300 grams of glycogen from carbohydrate. So once that's full, the liver can't take any more. So it turns it into free fatty acids. So the free fatty acids float around, and they're part of the concern with the insulin resistance. Free fatty acid sits on the receptor site. It doesn't allow the insulin into the receptor site. However, the free fatty acids also get turned into the liver to triglycerides. Triglycerides then are deposited largely around the centre. And when you get so much triglycerides sitting in the liver, you get a fatty liver. And when you get so much triglycerides sitting in the pancreas, you get a fatty pancreas. So the two go hand in hand. After a while, with a fatty pancreas, it can't make any more insulin. And Jan and I were talking about a professor I listened to a couple of years ago, and that if you take away the fatty pancreas and you take away the fatty liver, in some people you make the diabetes go away. And that's the whole essence of bariatric surgery. Quickly touching the last few minutes on these. Monogenic, there's 6 subtypes. There is something genetically inherited in the beta cell where it doesn't function the way that it was designed to function. And we test that by sending blood away and getting genetic studies done. Gestational, obviously guys can't get gestational diabetes. This is diabetes in pregnancy. Some people who are genetically prone to diabetes, the environment is the pregnancy. So the placenta actually generates a whole lot of hormones, and those hormones, they make the insulin become less effective, or you get insulin resistance, and we put them onto, first of all, metformin. So most drugs are contraindicated in pregnancy, but this one isn't.
What about neonatal diabetes?
Falls into HAT there.
Okay.
There are 2 types. You've got permanent and transient. In Wellington here I know of 5 kids with transient neonatal and a 6th one with permanent. So it's not very common. So what have we got? We've got 300,000 people, and I know of 6 kids. And then malnutrition. We talk about malnutrition. Basically, you're not getting enough, you're not actually taking enough energy to survive. And part of the energy source has got to be protein. And if you, whatever the protein is, I've rubbed it off. Part of the protein that keeps you together. If you're not getting enough protein in your diet, you fall apart. And this particular person was not getting enough protein in her blood. So she was leaking protein into other compartments. Nice one. And not doing terribly well.
Unfortunately, we have to call it quits, but I was just going to say, Lindsay, is that Pharmac, what were you going to
Oh yeah, if I told you before I worked for the Wellington Diabetes Service in the hospital, and for 2 years now we have actually done a YouTube videotapes on different types of management of diabetes. So I'm only one of about 6 presenters. So if you want to actually know any more in a YouTube presentation, go to Pharmac and look under diabetes, and you should be able to find out more about it.
Well, thank you very much, Lindsay.
It's,